Hi, I'm Steve Bergeron, and I want to welcome you to this edition of OmahaBrides.com video broadcast. This is a series of interviews when we sit down with local wedding vendors here in Omaha, Nebraska to help our brides and grooms better plan for their weddings. Now today we are with somebody who's been awarded not just once, but 5 times the Photographer of the Year award in the state of Nebraska. His name is Eric Brunn, and he owns Contemporary Images Photography. Now Eric, in addition to that, also has his Masters of Photography degree, and in addition also has his Photographic Craftsman degree and is a certified professional photographer. Eric spends his time going around 7 different states to educate and teach other photographers the fine art of wedding photography. Today we're going to sit with him and talk with him, and don't forget, in the end, he's going to have some tips and advice for you on how to plan your wedding when it comes to the wedding photographer. Welcome to this edition of Omaha Brides video broadcast, and as promised, we're here with Eric Brunn with Contemporary Images. Eric, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
You know, I'm doing really well, and I wanted to kind of kick this off by asking you a question that I think is pretty obvious, but it's a question that has to be asked anyway. Now, you're in the photography business. A lot of brides who are going to be watching this are going to call around for photographers for their wedding, and they're going to get prices that are going to go anywhere from $500 all the way up to $5,000. Talk a little bit about why there is such a discrepancy in the pricing out there for photographers.
Well, you have a lot of photographers since the start of digital photography 5, 6, 7 years ago that have come into the business, a lot of part-time photographers, so they are doing this on the weekend. The things you really have to look for in a photographer is you have to look at what you're getting for that $800 or $500 versus the $5,000.
Yeah.
There are prices everywhere in between that price range. Myself included, we have packages that range from $1,150 up to $5,800 and everywhere in between. And the level of service that you're going to receive at those different levels is going to vary based on what you're looking for and what your budget is.
You know, I always, whenever I'm talking to brides, I always say to them, you know, when you're picking a photographer, always remember that this is somebody you're going to spend a majority of your wedding day with.
That's right.
From the beginning of the ceremony all the way through the ceremony, all the way through the reception. So based on me telling them that, I always say, you know, find a photographer that you genuinely like, that you get along with. How important is that?
I think it's huge. Since the advent of the internet and people doing a lot of their shopping on the internet nowadays, so many times I think brides and grooms don't think about that, and they find somebody they like the photography, the price fits their budget, and they hire them. I would say it's key to narrow it down, meet with a couple photographers that you think are in your final choice, fit your budget, photography style is what you're looking for, and try and get to know them a little bit, because it is huge to spend 8 or 10 or 12 hours with someone who doesn't match your personality. So I think it's a very important factor.
Right. Now, when a bride is looking for a photographer that would say to the bride, you know, our price is $800, and at the end we're going to give you a full CD of all your photos. I mean, that can sound real appealing to a bride, as opposed to hiring a photographer that charges, you know, $4,000 and maybe doesn't give up all those photos at the end of the night. So, I guess my question is, these photographers that are charging a very low price and giving you a disc at the end of the night, are you getting the quality that you may...
Typically, maybe in some cases you are getting some decent quality images. I think, again, it goes back to what I said before, it's the service factor involved. When I come out and photograph a wedding, for example, I'm going to, after spending 8 or 10 or 12 hours with you on your wedding day, I'm going to spend probably about an additional 16 to 22 hours working on those images for you before you ever see anything. A lot of the lower end type of photographers, where you're talking that $500 to $800 price range, they're going to shoot the images, they're going to burn them to a disc, and they're going to hand them to you.
Right.
And no, the quality is not going to be the same in most cases.
You know, just last year I was DJing a wedding reception, and the photographer that they had was doing photographs of the bride and groom dance during, you know, the first song of the evening. About midway through the night, during the dance, a photographer actually asked me if I could clear the dance floor off and get the couple back out onto the dance floor so she could retake the bride and groom picture. And apparently what had happened was, right as the bride and groom dance started initially, they dimmed all the lights, which sort of threw this photographer off, and she wasn't able to adjust her camera to the lighting, so we had to go back and retake them.
You know, that's a tough one, because I can tell you there's a lot of photographers out there nowadays that maybe aren't, maybe don't have the skill level that that some of us do, and that some of us have developed over a lot of years. You just have to look really carefully. You have to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like anything else in life. You know, I kind of always look at it as you kind of get what you pay for.
Right.
So if the deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. But yeah, there's no reason why, and especially a wedding photographer, we've got to be able to adjust in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Whether it's lighting changes or whether it's guests getting in the way and that type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we deal with all the time, and any true professional should be able to handle that without too much trouble.
Just very briefly here, I want to cap this off with one other thing that you brought to mind as we were talking here. Photography is not a matter of bringing your camera out, pointing, and shooting, is it?
Correct.
I mean, there's a lot more entailed to just having a camera that has
there's a huge amount involved. You know, I hear so many times nowadays with new photographers that they have a passion for photography.
Yeah.
And although that's wonderful, and I have a passion for photography as well as I have a passion for customer service, but the key is the knowledge. And I did spend 2.5 years going to a photography school and getting a degree in photography, and consistently every couple times a year we do continuing education. So I think that's key. Things keep changing, styles change, photography equipment changes, and it makes a big difference.
Well, Eric, I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us here today. Now, if you'll stay tuned here in just a few moments, we're going to have Eric with some tips for you on wedding photography. Again, thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate your time today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Eric Brunn. I'm with Contemporary Images Photography, and I would like to give you a couple of tips about choosing your photographer today. My first tip would be, as you're doing your final interviews, before you make your final decision on who you hire, always meet with your photographer and look at the full body of work. Look at multiple albums that photographer has created for other couples. My second tip would be, beware of quantity over quality. The photographer that's going to tell you they're going to come out and shoot 3,000 to 4,000 pictures on your wedding day, I would suggest that 300 to 500 images of great quality is going to be much more advantageous to you. And then lastly, my third tip would be, find out what the services are involved. Is the photographer just going to come out, photograph the wedding day, hand you a disc, do no additional work to the images, or is your photographer going to spend time to enhance those images, color correct, crop, color balance them so that they all match throughout the day?